So, absolutely, we're here. This is the DNN chat of the month, and I have with me the usual suspects, Joe and Scott. Scott has a lot of scoops about the DNN Connect, and we have a special guest, Mitchell Sellers. Mitchell, how are you?
Doing well.
Perfect. Thank you very much for being here. Really appreciate you taking the time. Let's start with the DNN Connect because it's been in a way a quiet month. I guess that because people were busy getting ready for the event, and one of our guests here in the roundtable has gone to the event and is promising to bring some of the inside scoop. Actually, I haven't seen yet any summary of the event, any I don't know anything that would recap the event. So Scott, I'm gonna put you on the hot seat here and see if you can bring us some inside scoops and in a way maybe not a summary but maybe the highlights of the event. Talk a little bit about what happened there in Girona, Spain.
Yeah, I guess you're showing my screen, so I make show a few pictures while I'm talking. Is that
Sure.
okay?
Please,
All right.
please do it. I mean, as long as everybody is dressed properly.
I believe so. Yes.
Okay, great.
We didn't take any pictures on the beach.
Okay, good.
Well, so I'll start at the beginning. So my wife and I went together. So one of the things about the DNN Connect events that is a little bit different than maybe the DNN Summit, although that's going to change, I'm sure, as we go, is it's more of a family-oriented atmosphere. So a lot of people brought their significant others and their kids as well. And from Blue Bolt, it was me and one of my associates, Bill Benjamin, and he brought his wife and his whole family. But we started our trip in Barcelona. That was fairly close by. Most people had to fly in from there, at least the ones from the States. And so obviously we visited, if you could see on my screen or on the screen, several beautiful buildings, a lot of stuff designed by Gaudi. Yeah, so after we spent a few days in Barcelona, my wife and I just traveled through Catalonia, and you could see these pictures of beautiful mountains, Pyrenees mountains, coves, beautiful little villages. And then we finally got to our the last city on our tour before the conference, which was Girona. Girona is where Girona is where the conference was located, but not really. It was actually in a small town called Sant Hilari Sacum, which was about 30 minutes outside of Girona. And it was a nice little resort area you could see there. And you could see backed up a bit how that resort sits in this beautiful rural area in the Pyrenees Mountains, or close to the Pyrenees Mountains, which is a bit different than our US conferences because we're usually in an urban setting. So this was kind of nice. The keynote, the speaker was Ilan Lipton from Microsoft. And Joe just told me, and I already forget, but he's the director of engineering for the ASP.NET and Entity Framework teams. And so he knows a ton about .NET Core, .NET Standard, and all that stuff. And we'll talk about that in a bit. But he did the keynotes talking about the direction of Microsoft going, but basically more about decoupling the language from, the language of C# and how you write code to be able to run on all sorts of just everything, Android, Raspberry Pi, Linux. So they're basically just working hard to make everything to where you could write code once and run it everywhere. But then the first session was mine, and we talked last month with with Peter and Vicente and our last chat, and mentioning that both Peter and I did a session on persona bar development. Actually, we should have switched them. If we would have talked more, we would have switched them. Peter did his after mine. His is really better before mine. He explained the persona bar a little bit better, and I provided a little more advanced examples of it. But this will be a DNN Hero video set very soon. I'm ready to start converting this session into a DNN Hero video. So as you can see, I'm about to do my session. You can see all the sponsors on the screen, one of them being IO Computer Gurus, I believe, is somewhere in there, and Blue Bolt as well. So, which were both represented in this chat. And just some more pictures of, after my session and just other pictures. Some of the other sessions I went to during the conference, or some of the other topics I will say that were talked about. Obviously, Elon did more sessions on .NET Core, .NET Standards. I never really heard about .NET Standards or really paid attention to that. But .NET Standards is basically an API standard that's part of .NET that allows all the different frameworks like .NET Core, ASP.NET, and Mono, and all the other .NET type frameworks to all cooperate together and be able to share the same code.
Scott, if I can just give my 2 cents there. There's a blog post from Daniel Mettler just this past month, and actually I'm going to mention that a little bit later, which he talks about .NET Standards and how he was able to, by using .NET Standards, being able to run .NET Core, within DNN, in the context of DNN. So that's an interesting post, and again, just a hook on what you were talking about.
Yeah. And then, of course, Docker is another topic that's gotten a lot of popularity. I first learned about it actually at the summit this past, in Colorado. And so Joe did a great demonstration on Docker and basically how to use it, when to use it. And it was a great demonstration on that. If you're not familiar with Docker, look it up. It's a container framework that will eventually probably be a better alternative to using VMs to be able to run and host applications in a container context, and again, doing it in like a cloud environment. It's really cool. IoT, one of the sessions, there was actually several sessions on IoT, which I know, Adderson, you've shown a lot of interest in recently. The one I went to was Peter Donker's, and everyone got, as we normally do, we get these badges, right? These little lanyards with badges or name tags on them. But what also was included was a RFID tag. Everyone got one that had your information encoded in it. And I think it was, I don't know if Joe can chime in, but they built RFID little stations at every session. And so he built a conference user or attendee tracking piece of software where we would touch these to the little boxes, and it would show us our name and our information on the session, and it basically would send back to the server information from our RFID tags. So it basically told us that, we were checking into each session, and all the data was recorded in a DNN on the DNN Connect website. So it was really cool. I believe Joe had a little help in building those boxes. Is that true?
Yeah, so I did the 3D printing on those boxes.
Yes.
Scott, and but the pieces that were interesting was that I thought, those were all done with Raspberry Pi Zero W devices, which are like $10 a piece for those devices, plus a couple other dollars for LCD display and RFID reader. All told, I think you could probably get away with one of those boxes for under $30 a piece, which was really interesting. And the fact that they were all connected over Wi-Fi to a central Raspberry Pi, which was then logging data into a DNN database, that was really kind of interesting.
By the way, just a quick note, the voice in the background is Joe Brickman. Joe was not introduced at the beginning of the call because we had some technical difficulties here. But yes, this is Joe Brickman from DNN Corp, guys. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, so that was great watching Peter's session was basically on the architecture behind what Joe just talked about. But I wish I would have gotten a photo of one of those boxes. They were the 3D printed boxes that you did, Joe. They're really cool. I couldn't find a picture, but we'll maybe do that in the future.
I can send you over some pictures of those. I took a couple at the session plus a couple beforehand. So
yeah, cool. And unfortunately, I didn't get to see some of Daniel Metler's sessions. It just didn't work out. With one of them was during mine and this, but he did several on Angular, or sorry, not Angular. Angular JS development. And so there's a lot of mobile development. I think David Poindexter did one on Ionic development as well. So that was always represented there. DNN prompt, David Poindexter did a great session on DNN prompt, which I think we've talked about that before, right? Everyone know what DNN prompt is. And so that, like we said, we're working to get that introduced or pushed into the core. I think 9.2, but it might not. We'll see. But it's a real cool tool, and it's extensible. So 2 sessions on that. And not to mention, we did at the end that we voted on a bunch of what was called posters, but each poster was about a new type of product, I guess, that's out there, whether it be a skin or too sexy content application or whatever.
Scott, is that the DNN Champions?
Yeah, I believe I don't know if they called that. Yeah, on the website it was the posters, and then 3 of them won. And prompt was the #1 winner of that as an application. So apparently a lot of people love it. And I think open content won #2, I want to say. And I think the Too Sexy Content app data engine, they were in the top 3. I can't remember. So yeah, it was really, really great to see prompt, and I got to get a little more in depth on that. I'll probably be doing a tutorial on that soon as well. And then security was a big thing, which, it hasn't been, I know Mitch has done a lot of stuff on security and performance before, but we did I think there was 4 sessions on security this time. So talking about SSL certificates, talking about content security policies, and various other things about, securing ASP and applications, and in particular DNN.
Scott, did you watch any specific session about SSL and HTTPS? Did you watch any one of those?
Yeah, I did. In fact, those were done by Mariette Knapp, I believe her name is. Yep. And Hans, I can't remember his last name now, but they did a deep dive into SSL. Into setting up, certificates, different types of certificates, as well as like all the other things like content security policies and various other things.
Yeah, I would love to see, some sort of a recap, maybe from them or maybe from someone that watched those presentations. I'd love to see, because from my standpoint, whenever I think of SSL, okay, so I'm just going to slap a cheap SSL certificate on whatever I do, and I should be covered. But I guess that maybe I'm wrong there, isn't it? I mean, maybe there's a lot more going on than just slapping a cheap SSL certificate, correct?
Yeah, I mean, they started going to things that I'm not as familiar with like defining custom headers for content security policies that limit what things that can be done, limiting cross-site scripting potential attacks, and so they did go into depth about a couple of the different types of SSL certificates, and again, that's what I knew. Like you, that's kind of what I knew, is that you do that and you're done. But showing how to do things inside and outside of DNN with regard to rewriting and doing forcing SSL, things like that, was good to see.
Good. Joe B. Is there any scoops from the event that you'd like to mention to us? I know that you have gone there. So anything from your side?
So just a couple of things that I would add in a couple of areas. On the DNN prompt side, we definitely are doing DNN prompt for DNN 9.2, which will be out later this year. As part of that, we're looking at a couple of different ways of delivering that. What you saw from David at the event was DNN prompt in the persona bar. We're also looking at a standalone sort of in a standalone command line experience so that you can get the same DNN prompt experience. But if you want to manage multiple sites or multiple installations, you can do all of that from a single command line. And then also one that I think I posted a short live interview with David Poindexter over the weekend, was a mobile application that he's currently working on to connect to DNN prompt. And so all of that is slated for 9.2. We'll see how the mobile experience comes along, but that was looking pretty awesome over the weekend. The other thing, as far as 9.2 and sort of where we're going with that, is you're going to see a new asset manager to replace the old digital asset manager. And so this one will be a much more modern persona bar enabled feature that'll also have a separate viewer for module that you can drop on a page if you want to just give other people access. So those are the main things. And as part of that asset manager, that is the last step in completely eliminating Telerik from the platform. So there are a lot of good things that we're working on for 9.2. We talked about many of them this weekend at the event, and we'll be continuing to talk about those as we get farther along this summer. The DNN prompt stuff, I know we're getting ready in the next couple of weeks to start committing the first bits of code into the platform as we get past DNN 911 here.
Very good, very good. Okay. So we spoke about the different sessions, the different presentations that were done during DNN Connect. But if you guys are open to this more of the social aspects of what happened there, I mean, what were, I guess, the highlights of the event outside of the sessions? I mean, anything comes to mind? Anything that you can share comes to mind?
Well, I enjoyed, so my wife and I left on Sunday morning and early so we could hit up Montserrat before we went to Barcelona, the airport. And I was blown away that at 7 a.m., Will Stroll and David Poindexter and who was it, Frank Mency and I forget a couple other guys were up playing pool. And I was like, wow, you guys are early risers. And it turned out, no, they were just up. They had been up for a long time. So I'm not sure what they're exactly. And I think David Poindexter posted something on the Facebook page about his little adventure after falling back asleep on Sunday, waking up and the whole conference being gone except for him, and him having to find his way back, walk to that Sant Hilari town with his luggage from the resort because there was no one to drive him. And then I assume now he's gotten on to Girona and to other places, but that was interesting.
Good.
So the real takeaway from this is don't travel with David Poindexter. Well, and if you remember his adventure from a year ago when he got as far as Iceland, I think.
Not if you're counting on him to plan things. It sounds like he didn't have much of a plan there, but he made it.
I think having talked to David this weekend and some of the follow-on posts, he's more following Chad Nash's example of just sort of living in the moment and
yeah, exactly,
not worry about some of those details, which is fine, and the thing is, I think everyone else was more worried about David Poindexter and his travel situation than David was. He was just having a good time, and I think that's great. The thing I would comment about the conference is that it's a very different feel to a traditional American conference. In the U.S., we go to sessions and we'll be in sessions till 5 o'clock in the evening, and then we all sort of split up for the evening, and everyone sort of goes their own way and clicks form, and DNN Connect is very different than that. It's a very different feeling conference because you're out in a rural setting. You're out in sort of this, everyone's in this isolated area. You build much more networking goes on in the evening times as people are standing around playing pool or out on the deck just smoking and having drinks and talking and doing business and everything else, and just really building these friendships in the community. So very interesting conference.
It's funny you mentioned that, Joe, because I think this is not necessarily because it's in Europe. It's I think it's more of a deliberate thought and process and approach to events than anything else. So I mean, it doesn't mean that could not be reproduced around here. It's just that they are very deliberate on how they are doing those kinds of things. That's my take. Okay, so let's move on. So quick DNN, not so quick, but a good DNN recap. Thank you very much, Joe and Scott, for the help with the recap here. I know that Mitchell has to move on in a little bit, so I guess let's jump to something that Mitchell will have a lot or a little, I'm not sure at this point, to talk about, which is another event. It seems that we leave one event and we start already talking about the next one, and the next one, the next one. But that's great, because it's also about the community and getting people together. So in this case, I'm talking about a DNN Summit. So Mitchell, take over.
So we're just getting everything finalized now. And Joe, you're going to need to remind me of the dates here. It's February
6, 7, and 8, 2018, Denver, Colorado. And that's a slight shift from what we've been doing. This is a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And Friday and Saturday will reprise DNN on the Slopes in Winter Park, Colorado. And what that means is that people can have fun and go home on Sunday and be back at chained to their desk on Monday morning, or they can spend another day on the slopes. So everybody seemed to have a great time in Denver back in January. So we decided that it was worth a second chance. And I just saw in the chat window, everybody should bring birthday presents to Joe Brinkman. It's his birthday that week, but that's not why we chose the week.
Yeah, and one of the other things that we're doing a little bit differently this year, or this coming year rather than what we did this year, is we'll do trainings on Tuesday, as we've done historically in the past. But then the conference itself will actually be 2 days of speaking. So rather than having 1 day of sessions, where we've historically had just a single day of sessions and then rolling on to everything else, we'll have 2 full days of sessions with keynote the first day, and then sessions for both that Wednesday and Thursday. And at the end of the second day is when we'll do the traditional Ignite sessions, the 5-minute presentations that are auto-advancing slides and everything that have been pretty popular. And then that way everybody can continue on, those that want to continue on with on the slopes, etc. We'll be able to do so. We'll be opening up the call for speakers. My hope is within the next 3 to 4 weeks at most, just getting a couple things confirmed around the logistics of everything. Once we have that all finalized, we'll go ahead and get the call for speakers out there. We'll make sure to get word out via Twitter, via the website, and basically everywhere that we can. So keep an eye out for that. We'll have a lot more speaking slots available. We're going to go from having around 30 slots available last year to having 60. So it'll make it a little bit easier for us to be able to select those that are new maybe people that have been wanting to present for a while, but haven't gotten it. We welcome anybody to submit. Always looking to have new people out there to share their experience, especially as you can see with what Connect has done, right? It's a DNN themed event. However, not everything has to be 100%, tied to DNN. So getting talks about .NET Core, Docker, IoT, mobile, security, performance, all of those kinds of things are things that we'll be looking for as well, as we look to make sure that we have a comprehensive selection of topics.
Perfect. Is the committee still the same team? I mean, or do we have new faces there, or the same people were not afraid of coming back to do another event?
Well, maybe this is a good time to remind everyone that there is a nonprofit organization called DNN Association that is sponsoring this event. So in large part, at least as we speak today, it is the same team. We hope to bring some new people in. There is a lot of work to be done. I should probably mention names that you're familiar with. Clint Patterson is president of DNN Association. David Poindexter is vice president. Don Bishop is treasurer. Mitchell is secretary, and the fifth member of the board of directors is Cassidy Brickner, who is our resident Colorado person. So we have 2 boots on the ground in Colorado, plus her team. So that we're trying to spread the workload out a little bit better this year. And I probably should mention we're also back at the Embassy Suites Hotel in downtown Denver. For those of you who were there in January, may have seen signs about renovation on some of the upper floors. But by the time we get back, the whole facility will have been renovated. So same old place, but it will be a new place when we get there.
Very good, very good. If I wonder if Cassidy will be able to arrange the same type of weather that we had this year, because I mean it would be awesome, So if she can do that, it would be great.
Well, pretty sure there won't be sunbathing weather, but it was very nice. And maybe the other thing to say is keep your eye on dnnsummit.org. We will be putting out details as soon as they become available. Follow us on Twitter and follow us on Facebook. Information will be appearing there as well. But the website, as we bring things out of planning into fruition, that stuff will be available on our website. And those of you who want to speak, start working on your presentations. Those of you who want to attend, start making plans now. If you need help selling this to an organization or a boss, let us know. We'll help you.
Got it. Perfect. Mitchell, if you have anything else to add, otherwise, I mean, just feel free. I know that you have something to go to in a second.
Yeah, no, I mean, from my perspective, one of the things, especially when it comes to selling the event to management, one of the driving factors of making the event a 2-day event plus training was to help really work with that value proposition. Trying to make the event something that's going to be justifiable to your organization. We're not just sending you to a vacation in Denver. We want to send you to a good training event, that exists for a couple of days. After getting some feedback from individuals last year, that was one of the things that was a little bit hard for those that weren't necessarily local to Denver. was getting their management to understand that, we have a lot of content and a lot of learning. So I think by expanding out that event, we'll be able to definitely make it, that much easier. But as Joe mentioned, a lot of this information will get out there as soon as we can. But if anybody has questions about what we're looking for speakers, or if you have suggestions, if you were there at an event before, or would be interested in coming this year, if there's specific areas of focus, any suggestions like that, reach out to me or any of the other members of the association, so we can kind of make sure that we're responding exactly to what the community is looking for in the event.
Got it. And actually, I have one thing to nudge you guys about is feedback, because I assume that you guys may have gotten feedback about the sessions, about the full day sessions as well. So it would be great. I mean, whether or not we will be presenting, I will be presenting, somebody else will be presenting, I think it would be good if we could provide back some of the feedback that was given. I hope that people has given, feedback about the session. So again, it would be great to have that in the hands of the past presenters. I mean, just a suggestion.
Yes, and actually that's a very interesting point. So my responsibility for the event is around managing the speaker communication, selection, and all of that. This year we're going to be a lot more streamlined with how we do that process. But one of the things that is interesting, and it's not just specific to DNN Summit, it's something specific to a lot of the other events that I go to, right? On a yearly basis, I speak at probably 8 to 10 conferences all over the place. And one of the things we don't get a lot of is we don't get a lot of feedback. So for example, the last DNN Summit event, we had about 70% of the speakers did not have any submitted feedback for those sessions. So we had nothing to provide back to the individual speakers. So as attendees of conferences, whether it's DNN Connect, whether it's the DNN Summit event, or really any other event that you go to, taking advantage of those session feedback forms, whether they're paper forms that are there, some events it's just fill it out on a piece of paper, drop it in a box, others are electronic. Look at how that information is there, because, right, like yourself, Ederson, and I like to see it as well, right? We want to get that feedback, right? Are we doing something that's good? And it's the only way that us as conference organizers, as well as any of the individuals that are speaking, the only way we will know, did we do a good job or did we do a bad job, is with feedback. Both at the session level and the event. So I cannot encourage it anymore, but submit that feedback as much as you can. And we're going to try to do a much better job of soliciting that feedback this year. I've been working with a couple organizations that put on technical conferences for a living. They've been trying different bits of user behavior modification to try to encourage people to provide feedback.
Mitchell, so, on that point, maybe even a draw, even a special draw of some sort that will only be considered if you submit, something like that, But maybe again that can stimulate. I don't know.
Yeah, there's definitely the concept of gamification to the process, right? Submit this and then you get it. But what we find is, having seen that done at other events, it's kind of like the raffle ticket entries, right? Where you go around from booth to booth and get the little rubber stamp. All that happens is people fill out the thing so that they can say they filled it out. They're not providing thoughtful feedback. So what I want to encourage is not only that we get feedback, but that it's actionable feedback. Right? I don't necessarily, and most of us as speakers would most likely agree, giving me a 5, 4, 3, 2, or a 1 on my session, okay, that's great. But that doesn't really give me what I'm looking for. The meat of that feedback is why. So, and I can't commit exactly to how we're going to do it yet because there's some technical hurdles to accomplish it. but one of the styles that a conference venue that I've been to recently did is basically you get a green, yellow, or red. And the feedback is green, yellow, red, and a comment. You cannot submit a green, yellow, or red without submitting a comment. And the whole purpose there is, yes, I liked it, no, I didn't, and why.
Why?
You know, so what we're trying to do is make sure that we get it valuable for everybody. And it does. It plays into how we are selecting our speakers. You know, if we have somebody that had incredibly positive reviews at the event this year, right? And that person submits for next year, it's going to make it a lot easier. If we had somebody with a lot of negative reviews, we would, I'm not saying that we wouldn't select them, but we would maybe start coaching that individual, right? We had a number of new speakers last year. And one of the things that we were able to do with some of the feedback that we did get is we had a couple speakers that were having some problems with flow and process. So I actually sat down and talked with them a little bit after the event to try to figure out how we could make some of that process a little bit better. So, you know, it's, as Joe mentioned, right, there's a lot of moving parts with an event, right? We have the coordination of the hotel. We have the coordination of the speakers. We have getting people there. We have getting people to the after events. And it's just as important to get that feedback from the community as it is to have the community there and in support of the event.
Perfect. Okay. So again, Mitchell, feel free to leave us if you need. Otherwise, we can keep moving forward. Anything else about DNN Connect? Oh, sorry, DNN Summit. Or can I move on? 1, 2, 3, and I'm moving on here. Okay. So let me just mention a little bit here about the DNN roadmap, the new releases, what is you know, being done. We just had 9.1, you know, just about over a month ago. And then we have 9.1.1. I mean, you can see here, I have the roadmap open in front of me. You can see 9.1.1, which is supposed to be released by June, and 9.1.2 by August. And then we have 9.2 by, I think it will be by September, October. And as Joe quickly mentioned, Telerik removal is one point, rebuild of asset manager is another, and social improvement as well related to groups, activity feeds, and membership directory, and of course DNN prompt as well, which is the command line type of interface that has been recently built for DNN. That's about it for the roadmap. I just wanted to briefly mention about that. Let's see here, some blog posts. Not too many blog posts. I guess that people again were busy with their arrangements for DNN Connect. So a few blog posts from Daniel Mettler, who else? And it's one about instant theming. He basically talked about the technical aspects of how they put together themes on TwoSync. And he made available his process and his tools as well. And he goes through a workflow of what they do. So, but a very interesting post to read and maybe follow some of their practices as well. So he was very generous sharing their approach to theming. So this is one post, and the other post, it's from him again. A very good one here about, as I mentioned before, Scott, about showing how .NET, what is the term again? .NET Standard Library can be used to potentially, start to feature some of the .NET Core in DNN. And again, I don't know the ins and outs, but if you are curious to start, going towards the .NET Core, maybe you want to have a look at this post as well. That's about it. Again, and if any one of you guys have anything, please chime in. Otherwise, I'll keep plugging away. In terms of modules and either commercial or open source, I came across this one here called HeroWare HTML5 video from and that's Daniel. Let me see here. Daniel Valadas. He is from Montreal, Canada, and it's an open source module that you can, I guess, install it and be able to plug a HTML5 video player, and you can use with MP3, no, videos. Sorry, MP4 videos. I would assume, yes, MP4, of course. And so that was one. I also went to the DNN store to have a look if I would like to feature anything, but I thought, you know what? Instead of featuring a module or a theme or skin that I have not used before, I'm just gonna call out there and see if anybody else out there has any module or any particular theme that they love working with. They love because of, I don't know, it's very flexible, whatever it is. Maybe a module, maybe a skin, maybe a theme, you know. So let me know. Tell me why you'd love to feature this skin, this theme, or this module, because I would love to feature, you know, your picks here. Tell me which one it is and why you love that module or that theme, why you love it so much and you like to see it featured here. I would love to hear, you know, anyone's thoughts on their preferred modules, their preferred vendors. Maybe it's a vendor that has, you know, does, you know, a very good job throughout their themes or throughout their modules. I'm sure, Joe, if I ask you, Joe C, if I ask you if you have a preferred, you know, module vendor, maybe you have some, or maybe a theme vendor as well. I mean, are you okay of mentioning the name, Joe?
Well, that's actually an interesting question, and I was kind of reflecting over the last couple of weeks about my own use of modules. And when I started doing DNN stuff about 10 years ago, I was constantly looking for modules, downloading modules, testing modules, and so forth. And I think over the last 3 or 4 years, I'm probably down to, you know, 3 or 4 modules that I will use, and not so much searching for modules as, you know, continuing to use the few modules that have proved useful. One of them being a forms kind of module, and I've used several. Beyond that, probably Too Sexy Content is the module that I turn to for all of those other things that are not handled by DNN. And I particularly used it to provide content tools, you know, for users who don't want to do fancy HTML programming, but they have 4 or 5 items that they want to display in a nice format. And so I've gone to that. And besides a form module and Too Sexy Content and the old standby HTML module, I'm really at a loss to say, you know, what modules do you use a lot?
I get it.
Yeah, 10 years ago, forum modules were the big thing.
Yep.
I haven't worked on websites recently that have that kind of need. As far as skins go, if it has Jeff Barlow's name attached to it, I'm interested.
Got it.
That's not to say that those are the only skins I use. I've been working on one site that has a DNN Go skin, and I may be working.
I'm a big fan of DNNGo.net. You know, I mean, I really like their stuff. You know, we use them quite extensively.
Yeah, my only complaint is that the skins tend to feel a little bloated, and my bane this last week is a skin where I need to turn on client resource management and combine CSS and JavaScript files and minify them. And this particular skin, which is probably 2 or 3 years old, is not handling that well at the moment.
Got it.
And it's a skin that was purchased and modified by another company. So getting an updated version of the skin and remodifying it is a little bit out of the question. So it's the usual complaints, that the skin is perfectly fine until you decide that you need to turn on client resource management, and there's not a nice, well-defined point where you can specify all of the JavaScript and CSS files that you need.
I get it.
And I don't know if that's the skin problem or the other developer problem. So
I get it. I get it.
And I'm gonna be working on hopefully working on a site that has a skin from Mandeep's. So what did I say? I said DNN Go, Mandeep's,
Too sexy content. Yep.
Form module and Too Sexy Content.
Yep. And Jeff Barlow as well.
Top of my hit list at this point. Those are things that are generally pretty well done, occasionally drive you crazy, but don't send you off looking for other things to use in their place.
Great. You know what? Whenever I come across a module or a theme that I like, I tend to stick to that for years, So again, just a call out. If you have a preferred skin, preferred mod, preferred theme, let me know and why you love them. That's really about it in terms of modules and skins. Just coming towards the end here, I just want to do 2 plugs. First plug is, look who... that's the first time. Look who's back. Now.
Sorry for my abrupt drop off, but I am back for the to say goodbye.
Got it. Now back with light, because your view was a bit dark, Scott.
I noticed that as soon as you dropped off, Brinkman disappeared too. So you're the attraction, Scott.
Why would he stay for you guys?
No reason. So are you? I'm just about to finish, Scott. So just a quick plug. DNN tip of the week. Every week on Thursdays or Wednesdays, I'm releasing a new DNN tip of the week. It's a short video under, to me, short video is under 10 minutes, So it's a short video and with a quick tip about DNN, whatever it is, and whatever I come across, whatever I have on my tool belt. I keep releasing them every week. And if you have a tip to share, please do so, because I need tips. I need tips to keep them flowing. I have a backlog of a huge list. But if you have one tip there that say, hey, you know what, this might be a good tip to give on the DNN tip of the week, send it over. Send to my email, ederson@dnnhero.com, and I'll be more than happy to feature that, to say your name and your contact information if you want me to share that as well. But I would love to hear tips and tricks about DNN so I can share them with everybody out there. And it's interesting, just FYI. Those are short videos under 10 minutes, 8 minutes, and a lot of people are watching those little videos. I was not expecting to have this many people watching those little videos, but it's a nice surprise that I got there. I would assume that Joe, Scott, you have no problems giving tips, so I'm waiting yours, okay? In a month, I'm gonna wait at least.
I have a non-DNN tip for people who use Chrome. The developer tools now has a tab for Google Page Speed Insights, so you don't have to remember where to go to get it.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. Love it. Love it. Scott, again, in a month, I wait some. Okay, so Scott, I'm gonna raise your buy. No, in a month, I wait for a new video set.
Yeah. That's been a long time coming. Yeah.
Last plug. Last thing here for me to mention is about a new video set released by our friend Andy Stephenson from DNN Creative. It's about how to create a DNN theme using CSS grid layout. So he goes through and he unpacks. I mean, this is brand new stuff. How to use the new CSS grid that is not fully supported yet by all different major browsers. I mean, it's still on its infancy. So Andy, came on board and said that he wanted to put together a series on how to create themes using CSS grid layout. That's a great video set if you are interested. Guys, that's about it for me. Anything else that you guys want to add, or can we say our goodbyes?
I'll just say goodbye and happy summer to everyone. Since we had Memorial Day, it is now officially summer, regardless of what the calendar says.
Regardless what the calendar and the weather says, because I mean the weather around here has been a bit too much rain, a bit in the cool side. I mean, not a very good start of spring, but not the start of spring. I mean, talk about spring. I mean, summer is around the corner. So Scott, anything else?
That's it for me.
Perfect. Okay, guys, have a great beginning of summer. I'll talk to you all at the end of June again. See you in a month. Bye.